Here's the next installment, a PowerPoint lecture on deviance. This was the last slide that we saw. And we're moving on to now the theories of crime. We're kind of in, I'm going to minimize this for a second, we're kind of getting into the home stretch here. Now, there are lots of different theories on crime. I'm giving you a lot of PowerPoint stuff with Chapter 8, but I'm also adding some stuff on crime, so I'm taking away some of the chapters in your book that you're not going to have to read and giving you some extra stuff with deviance here, just so you know. There are, first of all, sociological theories, and you want to jot these down as well. Sociological theories of crime purport that crime can best be explained through the social environment, or in other words, the way society is structured. And there are two subtypes of sociological theories, structural and subcultural. I'll start with the structural. Structural theories of crime, and these are not in your book at all. Structural theories of crime, basically, I'm going to kind of skip ahead here a little bit, purport that individuals want to do things the right way. They want to abide by the laws of society. However, they can't. They are not able to. They turn to criminal activities because the social environment does not provide them with the legitimate opportunity to do so. This is the story of the guy who wants to do things the right way, but the economy stinks so bad, and he has no opportunity, so he resorts to stealing to feed his family, for example. I'll give you another example of structural theory of crime. I had an inmate from Chicago, Illinois. I'm not making this up. And he basically grew up in an area where there were very limited opportunities economically. He grew up in the inner city of Chicago. His parents were on drugs, in and out of jail. He had the public school system there was terrible. He had no opportunities to get out of there. He couldn't afford to. It was just a bad situation. Everyone around him was doing drugs, selling drugs, and he decided he was going to do things the right way. And he went to Burger King. And he was working at Burger King 40 hours a week, plus 20, 30 hours extra a week, overtime, just to pay his bills and to support his 8 children. He couldn't do it. It wasn't enough. And one of his friends said to him one day, "You should sell drugs. You could make in one night selling drugs what you will make in 2 weeks working at Burger King, working overtime." He was desperate. He tried it out of desperation. He didn't want to do it, but he had no choice, he felt, because his kids were going hungry. He couldn't pay his bills. One night led to 2 nights, led to a couple of years, and before he knew it, he was trafficking drugs, making a lot of money, and paying for his kids and taking care of his families. But he got caught. And when he came to prison in West Virginia, because that's where he got caught, he was telling me the story. "Mr. Dean, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to be a criminal, but I felt I had no choice. I had no other opportunities to do this." Now, you could say that's crap. Or you could maybe realize that there might be some legitimacy. I'm not justifying what he did, but it's an interesting way to think about crime, and it makes some sense on some levels. Now, structural theories of crime, maybe you've already written this definition down, stress that people do have the means to achieve legitimately in society, but they choose not to. They're endorsing specific lifestyles. The best example I can give you, that I'm going to go back, are gangs. I've talked to a lot of gang members in prison, and a lot of them say, you think that most gang members are poor, they have no other choice, the gangs kind of take care of them, they get them off the streets. That's true in some cases, but in a lot of cases, young children they're just totally attracted to this lifestyle. The guns, the drugs, the sex, the money, the violence, they're drawn to that, and they endorse that lifestyle, those norms. That's subcultural. That's not structural. But 2 sociological explanations. Also, you have, and we're not going to go in depth with these because this is not a biology class, but you have biological theories of crime. These are theories that suggest that criminals maybe are born criminals. Maybe there's something chromosomally, genetically that predestines a person to be a criminal. We've debunked a lot of these early theories that suggest that men who are overbearing, strong, lots of body hair, physically intimidating, are likely to be criminals. That's not really true. So we also have psychological theories of crime, and psychology is another social science like sociology. Psychoanalytic theory, like Freud, for example, stress that we have instinctive drives that kind of take us in some places, and maybe that there's some unconscious things that are going on that propel us into criminality, maybe. Personality disorders, mental health disorders, perhaps. As a psychologist, I deal a lot with mental health disorders. These are disturbances of a person's behavioral or psychological functioning that are not culturally expected, that lead to psychological distress, behavioral disability, and or impaired overall functioning. And if you haven't seen them yet at this point, you're going to be viewing some videos of people who have significant mental health issues that they're dealing with that could perhaps explain criminal behavior within the context of this course of sociology. Some examples of mental health disorders: anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, for example. Sometimes they can explain, mental health disorders alone can explain criminality. Personality disorders. These are psychological disorders characterized by enduring and inflexible behavior patterns that impair social functioning. One of the ones we'll talk about, I don't see it on here, is called antisocial personality disorder. We're going to do a unit on serial killers where we talk about people like Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy, Charles Manson, and start trying to understand what is it, psychologically or sociologically that creates a serial killer. So we'll look at some of these personality disorders and the idea of the psychopath as well. And then you have a combination of sociology and psychology with the social psychological theories of crime. These make a lot of sense to me as well. Social psychological theories of crime combine the ideas of the environment, the social environment, sociology, with the individual stuff, psychology. And these theories make a lot of sense as well. Learning theory, positive reinforcement, social labeling, and social modeling. Let's talk a little bit about reinforcement. That was learning theory basically posits that we learn to be who we are. Through reinforcement, through watching people and things happen in the environment. And positive reinforcement involves giving something good or pleasurable to increase the chances that a behavior will happen again. So reinforcement in and of itself is increasing the chances that a given behavior will be repeated. Regardless of whether this behavior is good or bad, if you're given something that you like to do something, you're probably going to do it in the future. If I give you money for coming to class, guess what you're likely to do in the future? Come to class, right? If I give you a big fat raise at work, you're likely to keep coming back to work because you got a raise. If I bring pizza to class every day, which I know I can't do because we're online here, but I guess I could send it to you, then you may keep coming back to class. Positive reinforcement. Sometimes criminals are positively reinforced. The drug dealer, for example, he gets something for dealing drugs. He gets money. He gets fame to some extent with his peers. His status elevates, or her status elevates. So that you're getting something for that. Now, labeling theory, we've already talked a little bit about labeling. This is the view that labels people are given affect their own behaviors and others' perceptions of them. We could talk extensively about labels. We have a little bit already. For better or for worse, if I provide a label to you, if I say you're stupid, you're worthless, you're a piece of blank, piece of crap, sooner or later, especially if you're young, you're going to start to believe, well, maybe I am a piece of crap, maybe I am stupid. And children especially, and adults start acting in accordance with that label, for better or for worse. I've had inmates tell me, my parents told me, Mr. Dean, that I was going to be a criminal just like they were, and I had no choice but to help with the family criminal business of selling drugs or whatever. So I thought that was my place in life, and they see themselves that way. Social modeling, the notion that people, especially children and young adults, will act, think, and behave in similar ways to their reference groups. For better or for worse, young children pick up on what their parents do, what they say, how they act. A reference group or reference groups are the groups that individuals most want to be like. Young children emulate their parents, for better or for worse. I saw an episode when I was about your age. I was in college. The Jerry Springer Show. It may still even be on in reruns somewhere. Of a 2-year-old young boy. He was dressed up in his, I call it his Klan costume, and he was espouting hatred, saying horrible things about women, about African Americans, about Jews. And I was half asleep, and I heard this on my TV, and I woke up. I remember looking at the TV and seeing this young child saying these horrible things. And I thought, what in the world? How does a 2-year-old child know to hate like this? Is he born with the, I mean, is he biologically endowed with the propensity to hate? And the answer probably is no, because behind him are his parents, his dad and his grandfather, giving him all kinds of praise, positive reinforcement. They're modeling this hate, this horrific behavior, and he's just picking right up on it. So for better or for worse, children emulate their parents. As we get into adolescence, children and adolescents tend to want to be more like their age-appropriate peers. So reference groups can shift a little bit too. Now, I'm going to go ahead and call that, we'll go ahead and call that the end of this part. Thank you.